What exactly is evolution? It's a question we ask ourselves every day. We know it has to do with Charles Darwin's observation of the Galapagos, and that traits are passed from parent to offspring, and that survival of the fittest means the greatest traits survive and speciation occurs, and that led to biodiversity in the world we have today. But there's still a few questions that are left unanswered, like how is a dolphin so closely related to a human, and how are flying creatures like birds not closely related to butterflies? There are a lot of questions, but hopefully we answer a few in the video today. The oldest kind of hominid we know is the Arthropithecus ramidus. It is nicknamed Artie after the first kind of its fossil, the first fossil of its species, which was found in 1994. They lived in woodland conditions. This species has an unexpected combination of derived and inherited traits and is believed to be a transitional fossil between apes and the hominid Lucy. The species had feet, which meant it walked upright, but the feet had a very high grasping capacity. According to the body, which includes their pelvis, legs, and hands, we assume that they were usually on the ground but had the capability to climb trees very, very easily. They also descended from a species called the Ardipithecus cadaba. The males and females were about 3 feet and 11 inches, and the weight was around 110 pounds. Body structure suggests that unlike the species which follow, there was not much difference between males and females. Oddities used simple tools such as twigs and leaves, but nothing related to sewn tools, as there was no evidence found of such use. The next species we're about to talk about is the Australopithecus anamensis, who lived from 4.2 to 3.9 million years ago. It lived in eastern Africa, which includes Kenya, Middle Awash, and Ethiopia. The name, or the root of the name, means lake, because the species were found near sites that were once lakes a very long time ago, over 4 million years ago. The fossils and remains of this species support sexual dimorphism, which means there are clear differences between males and females, which exist in humans as well. This obviously was not available for the Arthropithecus ramidus. This species has a combination of both ape-like and human characteristics. For example, they had a tibia that indicated they could walk upright, very much like present-day humans, but they also had many ape-like characteristics. For example, their face had an ape-like nose, ape-like mouth, and they were extremely hairy, like the primates today. But they also had a jaw which was very strong and was good for eating hard things. This was obviously a very important adaptation because this species has no record of using fire, which means they had to eat raw meat, and hard jaws, strong teeth are very necessary for eating raw meat. The next species we'll talk about is the Australopithecus afarensis. They lived from 3.85 to 2.95 million years ago, living for over 900,000 years, which is a lot for any species, especially for a hominid. They were found in Hadar, Ethiopia, and Tanzania, which are all in eastern Africa, and many researchers believe that while they were alive, they lived in eastern Africa. Remains of more than 300 individuals have been found, which is a lot compared to any other species of that time frame. In 1974, the first fossil was found, but the most complete one was nicknamed Lucy. It was found in 1978 and for a long time was the foundation of study for human ancestry. This species had a combination of ape-like and human characteristics. For example, the face had ape-like proportions like a flat nose and a strong lower jaw. Other ape characteristics they had was long arms that were strong with curving fingers that were good at climbing trees. But they also had human characteristics like being able to stand upright on 2 feet. And they had canine teeth, which we have. But the difference is they had only canine teeth, whereas we have a variety of teeth. Although this was an adaptation as they didn't have any way to cook their meat, so they needed strong teeth to eat raw meat. Also, their childhood was significantly shorter than today's children's childhood. This led to less time for socialization and parental guidance. Their brain was also only 1/3 the size of the modern brain. Now we'll take a closer look at the ableman or handyman, also known as Homo habilis. They lived in eastern and southern Africa about 2.4 to 1.4 million years ago. They were first discovered by Lewis and Mary Leakey from 1960 to 1963 in Tanzania. They were about 100 to 135 centimeters tall, which is a lot shorter than the average human today. They weighed about 70 pounds. They are the oldest representative of the human genus that receives the name Homo, which is reserved for more advanced human ancestors. This name was given to them as they were thought to be the first ones to make stone tools. They had smaller teeth than their Australopithecus ancestors, hinting that their diet was a little more flexible. They probably ate much more meat and had a more regular diet as they used tools to stay consistent with what they ate. They had a slightly bigger brain case but a smaller face than their ancestors. Even though their brain wasn't as big as the modern human brain, by the look of these tools, they were pretty smart. Now let's learn a bit about the Homo ergaster, which means the working man. They were also known as Turcanoboids. They lived from 1.9 to 1.5 million years ago, although some people say they lived from 2 million to 700,000 years ago. They were discovered in 1984 by Kamoya Kimeu in West Turkana in Kenya. They were believed to have lived in East and South Africa at the time they lived. They lived in the mosaic of forests, flooded grasslands, and open woodlands. They were about 180 centimeters tall, but females were only 160 centimeters tall. There was also a difference in weight, as males weighed 66 kilograms, whereas females weighed around 56 kilograms. As you can see, there is a difference between the sexes which was not there in the earliest ancestors of humans. They used stone-carved tools that were sharp. They used these to hunt. Their body may have been hairless to improve cooling, and they started perspiration, which is known as sweating. They had a more human-like shaped skull and had a more domed cranium or brain case. Now we're going to go into details of the Homo erectus, which is the upright man. The name comes from Latin. They lived between 1.89 million and 143,000 years ago. They lived the longest of any hominid with 1.75 million years in their pocket. Where did they live? They lived in northern, eastern, and southern Africa, western Asia, and East Asia. As you can see, these are the first hominids to have migrated out of Africa. Their height ranges from 145 to 185 centimeters, and their weight ranges from 88 to 150 pounds. They had larger brain cases than Homo ergaster and had smaller faces. Some features like longer legs and smaller arms hinted that their life was on the ground and not in the trees like their ancestors. This was a step towards the humans today. Their legs also hinted that they could run large distances, which explains why the species could reach Asia. They're also associated with making stone axes, which completely changed the way people used to hunt. They were found by a Dutch surgeon called Eugene Dubius in Indonesia in 1891. Now let's talk a bit about the Homo heidelbergensis. They lived from about 700,000 to 200,000 years ago and were the first hominids to live in Europe, and they possibly also lived in Asia and Eastern and Southern Africa. Their height was about 175 centimeters for males, and females were about 157 centimeters. Males weighed around 62 kilograms, and females weighed about 51 kilograms. Their body became more compact as they were moving to conserve heat. They got the name Heidelbergensis because they were found in a cave called Heidelberg in Germany. They were first found in 1908 by a workman in a sand pit. They were the first species to build a simple shelter, as we have seen the Terra Amara as proof in France. Sites in Spain have revealed the notion that they participated in human rituals, as they found 30 dead bodies in a pit. The first hunters of large animals like wild deers, elephants, and hippos, and they used sharp wooden spears to hunt these wild, large animals. The next species we will talk about is the Homo neanderthalensis, also known as the Neanderthal. They lived from about 200,000 to 28,000 years ago in Europe and southwestern to Central Asia. The males were about 164 centimeters and the females were about 155 centimeters tall. The males weighed about 65 kilograms and the females weighed about 54 kilograms. Sexual dimorphism, which is the difference between the sexes, was present but not as extreme as in earlier species. They're the first specimen to be recognized as an early human fossil. They were discovered in 1829 in the Neander Valleys in Germany. They got their name from where they were found, in the Neander Valleys. They were able to adapt in hot and cold weather, which is seen because of their huge nose for humidifying and warming in the cold air. They had more compact and shorter bodies than ours to be able to manage body temperature better. They had the same size brain as ours, and sometimes their brains were bigger in proportion to their bodies. They were hunters and gatherers. They used diverse and sophisticated tools. They controlled fire. They were the first ones to control fire. And it was a big help since they were there during the Ice Age. They lived during the Ice Age. They used and made cloth for protection, and they lived in shelters. DNA has been recovered from them and is now being mapped and compared to the Neanderthal Genome Project. It is being compared to the Human Genome Project, and we are trying to find the similarities to see how closely related we are. The next species we're going to talk about is Homo florensis. They lived in Asia about 95,000 to 17,000 years ago. They are the most recently discovered human species. They adopted the name Hobbit due to their little size, and that is the nickname that many people call them. They were about 106 centimeters and weighed about 30 kilograms, which is extremely small. They are the smallest of all hominids. This species had a small body size, tiny brain, large teeth, and feet compared to their body size. Their small body size was likely caused by island dwarfism because of long-term isolation with limited food resources and lack of predators. Discovered by an Indonesian-Australian research team in 2003 in the island of Flores in Indonesia. They were named after the island they were found on. The Homo florensis used and made tools. They also coped with huge predators like the Komodo dragons. They might have used fire to keep warm, give protection, and cook. The last species we're going to talk about are the Homo sapiens. They are the present species, and they live from about 300,000 years ago to the present. Homo sapien means wise man. They evolved in Africa and now live worldwide. Weight and height varies largely throughout regions. We as a species started off in Africa and then migrated all around the world. Homo sapiens are the first species to produce their food instead of depending on their environment. People started to settle down and make villages into towns. The complex brain of humans, or Homo sapiens, enable them to interact with others and with the environment in a whole new different way. Homo sapiens have completely retransformed the earth to their needs and also affected it in a very bad way. Compared to the Neanderthal, we have a delicate skeleton. Our head is less rounded and we have a smaller face with a pointed chin. Homo sapiens have a large brain in comparison to their body, making up 2.2% of it. The species of humans with the most inventions that advance technology from day to day, and is also the species that has exploited the earth for most resources. Prehistoric Homo sapiens not only made and used stone tools, they also specialized them and refined them and made them more complex. Homo sapiens underwent the bottleneck effect during the last ice age. They were almost wiped out by the extremely cold temperatures and the freezing of the water. But a very small part of the population was left. About 20,000 Homo sapiens survived, and we've rebounded to become the species that rules over the earth today with around 7 billion people. I think that's a really strong comeback. One example of the founder effect in humans is the Amish in the Americas. When they migrated to the Americas, they stayed within themselves and reproduced within themselves. Therefore, the community now suffers from sixth-finger dwarfism. Everyone in that community is extremely short and suffer from dwarfism and all the consequences that come with such disease. This is due to inbreeding and the traits not being hidden by other traits.